Black Ops 7 didn't just stumble. Activision set it up to fail. The beta numbers are historically low, and you can feel the apathy bleeding through every lobby. Barely anyone's talking about excitement or innovation. It's all fatigue and frustration. This isn't just another weak launch. It's the result of years of short-sighted, stupid-ass business decisions finally catching up to the most powerful shooter franchise on the planet. So, is this finally the year Call of Duty stops being untouchable? Let's break down how Activision managed to sink its biggest brand before the full game even hit shelves. Here's what the data says. The Black Ops 7 beta peaked at 74,000 players during the closed phase on Steam and hit just under 99,000 when it opened up to everyone. That's the lowest number for any Call of Duty beta since the series returned to Steam. For context, the Battlefield 6 beta crossed 500,000 players during the same window. That's a 5-to-1 difference, the kind of number that used to be unthinkable for a COD title. People will say, yeah, but that's only Steam. And they're right. Partial data isn't the whole population. But trends are trends. It doesn't matter if Steam represents 1% or 10% of the total base. The direction of the graph stays the same across PlayStation and Xbox. Downward. Even fans on Reddit are posting screenshots of half-empty lobbies and long queue times that never existed in past years. Compare this to previous betas. Black Ops 6 and the Modern Warfare 2 remaster easily broke 200,000 on Steam alone. Those were packed weekends. Twitch was flooded, and Activision bragged about record-breaking engagement. This time, radio silence. No corporate tweet about most hours played or highest participation ever. Nothing. When Activision goes quiet, it says more than 1,000 infographics ever could. The community noticed. Forum threads are filled with players saying, "This one just doesn't hit." YouTubers are literally calling it dead before launch week. And honestly, it feels earned. These numbers aren't a blip. They're the consequence of years of burnout and neglect catching up. The game isn't losing because of one bad beta. The drop is the result of a system that's been draining enthusiasm piece by piece. But those numbers are just the symptom. The real disease started a long time ago. Since 2020, Call of Duty has been stuck in an unsustainable loop. Annual releases stepping on each other's toes, bloated live service updates colliding between teams, and developers stretched so thin that you can feel the exhaustion in every release. What used to be a clear identity for each subseries, Modern Warfare, Black Ops, World War II, has blurred into a single mishmash where nothing stands out. The turning point was probably around the Microsoft acquisition. That's when the financial incentives changed. Instead of chasing innovation or player goodwill, the focus shifted almost entirely to predictable revenue. Microtransactions started dictating design. Instead of earning cosmetics or unlocking attachments naturally, the game's progression turned into a marketplace funnel. And once you start designing mechanics around retention metrics rather than entertainment, you're building for shareholders, not players. The result shows up everywhere, from skill-based matchmaking adjustments that pleased no one to an anti-cheat system that was always halfway functional but never consistent. Every beta since 2021 has been filled with identical conversation threads. SBMM's too strict, cheaters are back, gameplay feels copy-pasted. That's not coincidence. It's a roadmap of repetition. Players are losing patience, not just with bugs, but with the sense that their feedback disappears into a corporate void. Let's talk data again. In late 2024, Call of Duty boasted about 33 million active users across all titles. By early 2025, that number had fallen to around 20 million. Steam saw an even sharper collapse, an 86% drop from its all-time peak. That's not just natural attrition. That's mass disengagement across every entry point. These players didn't migrate to another shooter by accident. They left because the brand stopped delivering novelty. This is also where Activision's safe design philosophy backfired. For half a decade, every mainline release recycled art assets, animations, and even cutscene models. Guns looked the same. Maps were remixes. The new content was essentially a rearrangement of old pieces. At first, that familiarity felt comforting. Now, it's stifling.
Meanwhile, the company leaned harder into Warzone and seasonal content rotations. At first, it sounded smart, an interconnected ecosystem to keep everyone playing one product longer. But that same overlap robbed the premium game of its identity. The main campaigns and multiplayer launches became side dishes to the free-to-play giant. Why buy the new entry when the core gameplay already lives inside Warzone? Activision blurred the difference, and in doing so, they cannibalized their own market. Even the marketing reflected fatigue. The reveal trailer for Black Ops 7 barely trended for 2 days. Pre-orders lagged behind Battlefield 6 in both editions on the PlayStation Store, something that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. The community didn't feel anticipation, it felt obligation. People pre-ordered because it's tradition, not because they believed the next one would innovate. When Battlefield 6 released its beta with massive player counts, it instantly overshadowed Call of Duty's launch window and stole the conversation. It didn't take an amazing game to do that. It just needed to feel new. All of this points back to Activision's short-sighted management. The company relied too heavily on the idea that the Call of Duty brand was untouchable, that its players would return out of habit regardless of quality. And for a while, that worked. Annual revenue numbers stayed high, but underneath, the loyalty eroded. Developers could sense it, fans could sense it, even content creators could sense it. Every time a streamer said they were taking a break until the next season, what they really meant was, there's nothing left to stay for. There's also the emotional side most analysts ignore. Players who grew up with Call of Duty, the ones who lined up at midnight for Black Ops 2 or stayed up all night for Modern Warfare 3, feel like the franchise forgot them. Those weren't just games. They were cultural events, shared with friends, clan rivalries, and YouTube memories. Now, the only emotion most updates provoke is frustration. It's not anger from disliking a new feature, it's sadness from realizing none of it matters anymore. When your most loyal fans stop believing the next one will be better, you're not dealing with a launch problem. You've got a brand crisis. By the time the beta ended, Activision was already in damage control mode. They extended the test by 3 days and dropped a surprise map update mid-week, something that never happens unless the numbers look alarming behind the scenes. Players barely noticed. The extension didn't bring a flood of new testers. The lobbies still hovered around the same range, and social chatter didn't spike. That's a red flag you can't PR your way out of. It means the hype arc is gone. If this trend holds, Black Ops 7's launch will start strong by name recognition alone. Millions will still buy it because it's Call of Duty, but retention will collapse within weeks. We've seen the pattern before. Peak Steam charts during launch weekend, then a 30 to 50% player drop by the first content update. Normally, Activision would patch, promote, and bounce back. But this time, the tone's different. Core streamers like Jev and the exclusive Ace are openly questioning the point of covering the game long-term. If your unofficial ambassadors bail before release month ends, it signals to casual players that they can too. The community's skepticism runs deeper now. Players know temporary fixes won't matter if the underlying formula doesn't change. Even the recent balancing updates, faster time to kill, toned down recoil, more responsive movement, feel like surface paint on a collapsing structure. Activision's internal solution loop always follows the same rhythm. Patch, promise, pivot to the next seasonal crossover. That routine no longer convinces anyone paying attention. Meanwhile, Battlefield 6 is enjoying something that Call of Duty once owned: cultural momentum. Its beta pulled 500,000 players on PC alone. Steam charts skyrocketed, and its subreddit spiked by over 200% in activity during the same week COD's threads talked about dead lobbies. Battlefield's rebound doesn't even need perfection, just contrast. After years of being the underdog, it's suddenly the fresh alternative. Add the indie resurgence, and you start to see the pattern forming. Games like X-Defiant, The Finals, and smaller tactical shooters are grabbing the players who once rotated endlessly between Modern Warfare and Black Ops. They offer simplicity, lower prices, and identity. The more Activision doubled down on cross-promotion and monetization, the more they alienated that crowd. So, what does Activision do next? The likely pivot is predictable.
Lean heavier into Warzone, double down on live events, and push mobile entries to keep engagement metrics up. It makes sense financially. Warzone still has tens of millions of monthly users, but it's also the exact strategy that gutted excitement for mainline titles in the first place. You can't rebuild trust through spin-offs if the flagship feels hollow. The truth is, the Call of Duty ecosystem now depends on short-term surges rather than sustained passion. That's fine for quarterly reports, not for community culture. Once your engagement graphs replace your community feelers, creativity stops being a goal and becomes a variable. And that's what makes this moment dangerous. Fans have moved from frustration to indifference, and that shift is almost impossible to reverse. Low player counts can recover. Lost belief rarely does. And the saddest part? Black Ops 7 didn't need to be a casualty. It just needed to feel like it had something new to say. So, where does that leave Black Ops 7 now that even its biggest fans have lost faith? Black Ops 7 isn't dying because it's an unplayable mess. It's dying because Activision forgot why people cared. The franchise used to be about surprise, innovation, and community moments that felt alive. Now it's optimized spreadsheets and recycled nostalgia. The audience finally noticed, and no marketing campaign can hide that fatigue anymore. Maybe Battlefield deserves this temporary crown. Maybe it's just COD's turn to stumble. But the message is loud and clear. Players won't stick around for nostalgia pretending to be progress. The numbers, the sentiment, the silence, they all tell the same story. Drop your thoughts below. Can Call of Duty still recover, or has the FPS throne officially moved on? I read every counterpoint. And if you want more honest breakdowns that don't sugarcoat industry hype, hit subscribe, because this channel's here to call it like it is, every single time.